Have you ever wondered why some phrases just stick? You know, a line from a poem, a political slogan, a jingle you can't get out of your head. They seem to have this, well, this kind of magic to them. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that magic. We're going to decode the hidden power in our words, and we're going to start with one of the most famous examples in history. So, here it is, our central puzzle for this whole explainer. It comes from the 1952 U.S. presidential election. This little three-word slogan for Dwight D. Eisenhower, whose nickname was Ike, is one of the most famous and, frankly, effective slogans in political history. But why? I mean, on the surface, it's just a statement of preference, right? I like Ike. Big deal. But there is clearly something more going on here. It's memorable, it's catchy, it's incredibly persuasive. So what is the secret ingredient? What is it that gives these three simple words their undeniable power?
To solve this puzzle, we're going to need a guide. And our guide for today is the brilliant 20th century linguist Roman Jakobson. This guy created a kind of blueprint for all communication, a model that helps us see all the different jobs that language is doing every single time we speak.
Okay, first up, the blueprint itself. Jakobson argued that to understand how language really works, you have to see that every single act of communication, I'm talking from a text message to a giant novel, involves 6 essential parts. And here's that model, right from his work. You've got the addresser, that's the sender, and the addressee, the receiver. They're talking about a context using a shared code like the English language, through a contact or channel like sound waves, and they're sending a message. Every time you talk, all 6 of these things are in play. But here's where it gets really interesting. Jakobson realized that each of those 6 factors corresponds to a different job, or what he called a function of language. Think of language as a multi-tool. These are its 6 main attachments.
Now, before we get to the one that solves our Ike puzzle, let's do a super quick tour of the other 5. Most of the time, language is just doing its referential job. Just plain and simple information about the world, about the context. It's just stating facts. The sky is blue. Done. Then you've got the functions that are focused on the people involved. The emotive function is all about the speaker's feelings. It's a sigh, an exclamation, like, ugh. It's language that's pointed inward, you know? And when language is pointed outward at the listener, that's the conative function. It's trying to get a reaction from you, like a command, come here, or a direct question. Sometimes, language is just about keeping the connection open. That's the pathic function. It's your hello on a bad phone call, or when you say, you know, just to make sure the other person is still with you. It's like social glue. And last but not least, the metalinguistic function. This is when language gets all self-referential, using the code to talk about the code itself, like when you ask for the definition of a word. So, okay, those are the 5 standard jobs.
So we've covered 5 functions tied to 5 factors. But what about that 6th factor, the message itself? This, my friends, is where we find the key to I like Ike.
This brings us to the final piece of our puzzle, the poetic function. And hey, don't let the word poetic fool you. This is not just about sonnets and poems. No, it's about something much more fundamental. So at its core, the poetic function is a focus on the message for its own sake. It's when the sounds, the rhythms, the feel, the form of the words themselves become part of the message. It's language that basically draws attention to its own art. And this, right here, just illustrates the difference perfectly. The referential version, Eisenhower is a good candidate, just gives you information. The poetic version, I like Ike, does the same job, but it does it by making the form of the message absolutely irresistible.
Okay, let's break it down. According to Jakobson's analysis, the power comes from its poetic structure. First, you've got 3 short, punchy, one-syllable words. It creates this chant-like rhythm. Second, that vowel sound, I, gets repeated in I and Ike. It's an internal rhyme that musically links the speaker to the candidate. And third, the consonants ul and k in the word like basically frame the whole phrase, giving it this neat, satisfying structure. It's not an accident, it's linguistic engineering.
And this is not new, of course. Think about Julius Caesar's famous boast, Veni, Vidi, Vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. The power isn't just in the meaning, it's in that punchy rhythm, the alliteration, the 3-part structure. That's the poetic function at work more than 2,000 years ago. And once you start looking for the poetic function, you realize it's not just in history books or your high school English class. It is absolutely everywhere. Now, in its most obvious home, poetry, the poetic function is dominant. In his analysis of Edgar Allan Poe, Jakobson points out how that repetition of still is sitting isn't just to give you information, it creates this hypnotic, oppressive feeling. The sound and the rhythm are the meaning.
Jakobson actually gives this wordplay a fancy name, paronomasia. It's basically just using words that sound similar, like in I like Ike, or any clever pun. This little trick makes the message way more memorable and creates this sense of unity and cleverness.
And this visual just illustrates that feeling perfectly. The poetic function often works by setting up a pattern, a rhythm. This wave-like structure you see in verse creates an expectation in your brain, and the satisfaction of meeting that expectation is just deeply pleasing.
So where else is this function hiding in plain sight? Oh, you'll start seeing it everywhere. In advertising slogans like Nike's "Just Do It," 3 simple, rhythmic words. In political mantras designed to be chanted, even in the simple nursery rhymes that helped us learn as kids. Every single time a joke uses a pun, it's using the poetic function to get its laugh.
You know, ultimately, understanding the poetic function is like getting a pair of X-ray glasses for language. You can suddenly see the underlying structure, the hidden machinery that makes a phrase persuasive, memorable, and powerful. You can see how it's working on you.
From the slogans you hear to the headlines you read, language is constantly trying to do more than just inform you. It's trying to charm you, persuade you, to stick in your head. So now that you know the secret, what poetic language are you going to notice today?